That's what a salesperson needs to do. You can't sound scripted. You can't sound like you're just reading words. You have to make it a performance. And that's the beauty of sales, right? And so, in my opinion, if you're coming across conversation and you don't sound casual, you don't sound human, you don't sound authentic, if you're not cracking jokes, not just to get people to laugh, not stupid jokes, right? Don't be annoying, but be conversational and be human about it and be thought provoking about it and not sounding scripted, but start off with a framework. That's how you want to be.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, here we go. We're doing this thing. I'm excited today because I'm about to learn a ton. My brain, it's not smoking right now, but it's about to be. And I have brought coffee and a little Celsius to help quench the thirst when my brain gets into it today, because I am learning from someone awesome, like amazing. Who are they, Casey? Enough about your feelings. Who are they? Serial entrepreneur, a sales leader, a thought leader, business development expert who trains experts, right? He is the thought leader of thought leaders in this avenue. We're going to learn about this mysterious role that tends to be marketing or sales or none of the above or all of the above. And there's so much confusion. I can't wait to clear up this mystery today. He has led thousands of brands, into building and scaling sales and content strategies and that sales dev arena. He's collaborated with brands like SalesLoft, Cisco, Adobe, you name it. He's got articles everywhere with his name. He's the co-host of the Do Hard Things podcast, CEO of Alleyoop. Gabe Lullo, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, man. First off, I'm a huge fan of yours, huge fan of the show. So thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it. And excited about this one, man. It's going to be fun.
Dude, we talk all, we smash things here, and man, there's just this mystery. So I'm going to shut up and stop rambling and pass you this thing. It's heavy, but clearly you work out. So I'm going to, okay. All right. You want to grab that?
There's Thor's.
You got it?
Hammer, yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, he just backhanded grabbed Thor's hammer like it was a paperweight, like it was made out of plastic, and it's not. It's the real one. So tell you what, Gabe, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing and sales myth, a bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
I think I got two actually that's going around right now, especially in the LinkedIn sphere, if you will. Big myth is sales owning sales development, the SDR, BDR space, or marketing owning it. It's interesting because, marketing, right? You're not selling anything. You're trying to gain interest in leads and you're trying to gain, buyers, but just really impressions. And then you have sales who's closing deals and asking for money and negotiating contracts. And then we have this new role, and I say new, it's only about 10 years old, where sales development SDRs, literally over 1 million people on LinkedIn right now are SDRs if you do the search. And so it's a huge segment of businesses, but it's really not known. Is it being taken over and treated as a marketing function, or is it a sales function? And my approach is it's neither. It's actually its own function. And if you treat it as such and you give it the attention as such, then that's where you see the results that you really want out of it. And that's a big myth, I think, that we are trying to solve right now for many companies. And then the other one I just had to throw out there is cold calling, right? I just want to date this real quick. It's 2025. And I just want to say cold calling is not dead. And a lot of people are saying nowadays AI is going to take things over. But at the end of the day, by the way, we make 11 million cold calls a year as a company, one of the largest in the world in what we do. But at the end of the day, it still works. People still resonate with the phone. It's the fastest, most effective way to get someone to say, who are you? To, I want to talk to you. And that's what we believe in.
Man, you're not supposed to smash two myths at once. Now you got my brain really cranking here. There's so much going on. Let's start with that. The SDR, the fact that it's neither sales nor marketing. It's just this separate function. I had always experienced it as like if you're new to sales, this is how you cut your teeth, and you're going to be an SDR, and one day you can grow up and be an adult and be a sales rep, an account executive.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was, by the way, the crawl, walk, run, mentality of sales, and they call it quote unquote entry level sales roles. And I don't want to. We don't say that anymore. It's not an entry level role. It could be a great way to break into the space of technology sales for sure. But I have people with all walks of life, all age groups, all demographics, very successful in the SDR function. I have many AEs that actually left the AE role to go back to the SDR function. And that may sound weird, but here's the things. It's predictable. You can hit quotas faster. There's not that huge stress of closing revenue and hitting that massive number every single year. The very short sales cycles. And at the end of the day, it's more of a transactional role, and people like to gravitate toward that. They don't want that high pressure sales. They want to be able to punch out at 5:30 every day and not have to bring their sales with them. And they don't have to worry about, those long sales cycles to generate income. And it's much more advanced than ever before. You mentioned some companies we worked with early on of their existence, the outreaches, the sales lofts of the world. But think about it, the way technology, data, tools, and now AI is embedded into this specific space, there's so many things that you have to be good at and master. It's really its own role, and you could be successful within that role, whether it's moving up to a manager or director or campaign director. There's a lot of avenues versus just going into the traditional full cycle sales role.
Wow. Okay. But the idea of an AE, I mean, is that a step back or is that a side step to be able to go from, I guess, do you get paid less to do that or?
Yeah, I mean, going into AE role for sure, in many, many, many cases, you're going to make more money if you're good at it, right? And if you go from sales development to account executive, that I would say is for sure a potential step up. But then again, it's a riskier role. You're having a lot more pressures, and it's a different role. People have to build relationships. People have to know how to negotiate contracts and deals. And yeah, I would say much more advanced. But what I'm also noticing is that, with the shakeup of the tech space over the last few years, there has been really a promotion of SDRs into the AE role prematurely. I'm dealing with a lot of AEs right now who are just not trained enough. They're not skilled enough. They're not leveled up enough. And so there is a balancing act. And I feel like right now, a lot of companies move SDRs into the AE role too fast. So you have to really, like I said, going back to my initial thought, is you really have to treat that SDR function as its own beast and not just a, pre-K to a kindergarten to an AE position.
Feed all the SDRs applesauce, everyone else gets a sandwich. Uh, yeah, I definitely remember hiring for sales, and we use like DISC and things like that. You needed some sort of dominance, or at the end of the day, you needed a certain trait to be able to close, to ask for the business. And then some of the guys who didn't have that were more like people were just really great at opening. Do you see the same kind of thing here where some people are just like born SDR conversation starters?
I get that all the time. I wrote a blog actually a few months ago on LinkedIn on my newsletter, and it was titled, introverts can be salespeople too, right? So you don't have to be this slick, outgoing, highly communicative person to be a really good sales leader. Actually, my approach to sales is that the better you are at not sounding like a salesperson, the better you are at sales.
Hey,
You know what I mean? Like you really want to sound differently than everyone else, and you want to stand out. And just by doing things differently, you're automatically standing out from the crowd. So you don't have to be this, again, unbelievable communicator. Now, obviously communication is essential, but you can be great at just asking questions. And I feel that the best salespeople in the world are not presenters or these amazing orators of any kind. They're really just very inquisitive. They're very curious, and they're solving problems by asking questions. And the better you are at listening than you are at talking, the better salesperson you become. And that's where we spend most of our time, is that active listening skill versus the ability to say something really smoothly skill.
right? Like if you sound like you're selling a Miata, then
I don't want to knock car salespeople, but I will say that is a role that has given the position a bad racket, and that's, again, we want to be a little bit more thought provoking. We want to be asking, highly, again, most of the sales we do and the prospecting we do are for large deals, multi-million dollar deals. Now, not always, but it has to make sense, right? So that is, a different art, in my opinion, than selling something that it would be a transactional sale.
And I guess this kind of bridges us over. Is the primary tool of the SDR rep the cold call?
Yeah, I mean, right now you have to really, you have to. If we're in an attention-based society, right? And that's where attention is the greatest currency, they say, right? So we have to stand out. And a lot of people are not doing cold calling, whether they're afraid of it, they don't know how to do it. It's hard. I talk about that all the time. But at the end of the day, I think that's the reason why it's even more effective, right? Because many people aren't doing it. So therefore, the people who are actually getting the fruit of their labor. And so it is a skill. It is trainable. It is something that absolutely can be taught if you take it dead seriously. But it is the most effective way to stand out. And because email right now is harder than ever before. If you're relying on cold email to generate pipeline, you're going to have a very difficult time in 2025. So for the way we approach it is we're really bullish on LinkedIn. We're really bullish on, connecting with content and creating a at least an idea of who we are, and then coming back up with a phone call to cut through that noise is really where the call to action occurs.
So start with LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, if your buyer's there, right? I always say your ICP defines every action that you should be doing. Whoever your ideal client profile is, whoever your audience is, whoever your total addressable market is, you have to, appease them. So if you're selling something where most of your content should be on LinkedIn or whether it's on Instagram, that is a differentiator for sure. We obviously do a lot of content on LinkedIn because we're a B2B sales firm. And so therefore our buyers typically live there. And so if it was a product that resonated with LinkedIn, yes, content is the way to do marketing these days.
Man, why do you suppose these myths are even happening? Why do you suppose we're so locked in the past and in the dark on SDR and thinking? And I guess I could see why you'd think like SDRs thinks if you also think that cold calling is dead. Where does this come from?
I think it's everyone wants to find a better way to fix the wheel. And the reality is, everyone's trying to automate everything. Everyone's trying to leverage AI. I don't know of a company right now that isn't putting AI in some tagline of theirs, regardless of how AI focused it is. And that's okay. We love AI, and AI is, we believe, a great opportunity for us to capitalize on. But I think most of those myths are started because someone has a personal agenda to sell whatever it is that they're selling, and it creates a rumor and then turns into a myth and then turns into something that maybe people actually believe. And it's because it is difficult. Is it expensive to hire a team to cold call? Yeah, it's a lot more expensive to do that than it is to send an email to 100,000 people every day. But what approach is it that you are actually doing? Do you want a great first impression with someone who can articulate a message and sound highly inquisitive and curious and represent your brand in an authentic human way? I would rather have that. It is more expensive to do it. Or do you want to just be spam cannons and sending out emails all the time and then, it just getting filtered out by Google spam filters? That's not the greatest first impression. So that's how we look at it. I don't like saying cold calls. I like saying first calls, right? I didn't take my wife on a cold date. I took her on a first date, right? And so the reality is that we're starting a conversation, we're building a relationship, and this is a first impression, and you want to get it right.
See, now I like that. The first date versus a cold date. Now, how do you make that first call feel much more like a first date and not being stalked by a creepy guy?
Yeah, exactly. What great point and good analogy. Hopefully she didn't feel that way. She did say that, so that's good. But at the end of the day, going back to that content piece, right? My marketing professor 2 decades ago said to me, Gabe, it's not what you know, and it's also not who you know. Really, that's the cliche that everyone thinks, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, he also said it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I'm like, well, tell me more. And reality is, do you know who Michael Jordan is? Yeah, I do. He doesn't know you? No, he doesn't. All right. So there you go. That's the analogy. So if it's about knowing someone, then it's turning it from cold to warm. So if I was creating content, if I connected someone with somebody, if I sent them a really personalized video or voice note on LinkedIn and then followed up with a phone call the next day or 2 days later, those are what we call multi-thread or multi-channel campaigns. And you're not just focusing only on the cold call, because then it's cold. You want to focus on a warm call because now people are more familiar and they know who you are. And that's the secret sauce.
It's your first call, but it's not maybe your first time you've heard of this person or the first time you've swapped a message. Maybe you've had some texts off the dating app, like you saw them somewhere, right? So yeah, it's not like first contact.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Just like a referral is the best lead, right? We always say that. Referrals are the best leads. Well, what is a referral actually? Well, it is someone who you know, like, and trust saying something good, right? And relevant, and you're aware of that person. So therefore, just by osmosis, you should be somewhat aware or trustworthy of me. And that's what the referral is all about if you break it down. It's warm. Well, how can we create a referral type feeling in a cold type introduction? Well, the more we can actually do around that is the best way we can do it. So a cold call to you, maybe, hey, you know what? I'm giving you a call out of the blue, but it was told to me to reach out to you by name, by this, or this specific reason. Or I noticed you were posting on LinkedIn yesterday and I really loved the podcast. And, I actually know Gabe as well, and he's a cool dude. So I just wanted to reach out. So straight up cold call, but how can we get it warmer and warmer and warmer is how we want to approach it.
Are there certain industries that you've seen, like if they're listening, don't even think about it? Or is everyone game for a first date?
Yeah, it's interesting. Great question. We hear it all the time. Like, Gabe, what's your industry that I specialize in? And the answer is we're industry agnostic. And I don't mean that to say we take everyone on, but I do say that we really have no filter in who we can work with. So we don't really look at the ICP as much as if we should be working with them. The question is, do they have a brand? Do they have an internal sales team? If I gave them 100 leads over the next 90 days, would they be able to close them? Do they have an irresistible offer? Do they have highly competitive marketplace? How do they stand out from their competitors? Those are things that we look at. But when it comes to building it for themselves, is there an ICP that just shouldn't be doing cold calling? The answer is if the money ROI isn't there, then don't do it, right? And so a lot of things we don't want to work on, specifically with cold calling, is product-led growth companies, right? If you're doing a product-led growth, free trial type of environment, there has to be a lot of conversions happening in order for having a physical cold calling campaign be worth it financially. So those are things that we really don't like to touch.
See, that makes sense. Okay. And they do have to have all that internal mechanism, right? Because you could set them up on this first call, get this first call going and create an appointment and all these things, and they get on there and they just like fumble it. Does that ever become like a real challenge?
It's our number one challenge, actually. Going back to my point of how we've seen all these AEs get promoted. It was really based on our clients not converting and it's okay. They kind of create their own problem, sales teams, right? Their owner, their VP of sales, their CRO, they go up to them and say, hey, we're not closing deals enough. We're not hitting numbers. Why is that happening? And of course, it's the own Glenn Ross, excuse. Yeah, we need the leads, right? The leads are bad. We need more leads. And so at the end of the day, they come to us and say, Gabe, we need more leads. I said, okay. So we give them more leads. And guess what happens?
Same thing.
They're still not closing. So the reality is it's not always the leads. It's also who is getting the leads that could be part of the problem. So we try to introduce those companies into our partners, our trainers, friends of ours, CROs, sales training companies that can really get a level up, if you will, of their internal teams.
Yeah, so I could see those partners being really critical, or you just work with a more seasoned company that, to your point, is ready to handle an influx of, 100 conversations. And do they have what it takes to then close those? So that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything else that is like a contraindication, like something that wouldn't necessarily fit? Free trial is not a good fit. Anything else that?
Like for prospecting, I think cybersecurity is pretty tough these days, right? Technology firms that are selling into uh, technology departments, they don't pick up the phone very often. They already know how to filter out their spam emails, right?
Yeah, they know how to do it. Yeah.
They know how to circumvent and get out of it, and they also don't pick up the phone very often, so it's difficult. Again, you have to have a strong brand, you have to have an irresistible offer, you have to know what your differentiator is in your competition. Because if you have a really piercing message, it will pierce through. If you don't and it's very generic, it won't. But I will say selling to that specific segment is more difficult just because they are not typically responsive or accessible when it comes to our outreach.
This is great info. And see, I think this is what really helps, because if you weren't in that list of what doesn't work, man, this is definitely the thing to be looking at and working with your team. So, who are the most accessible? That's who I'm curious. Who are the ones who are like, it's a no brainer? Someone's in this particular industry, and you're just like, these guys pick up the call. They love to talk. The book an appointment.
You think about what you just described. I mean, that is a quintessential salesperson, right? Salespeople pick up the phone. They love to talk. So selling to salespeople is by far, I believe, the best way and the best use of cold calling, right? We worked with Zoom Info over the last 10 years. And when we started with them, they never had an SDR and they were a very, 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 very small company. And we helped them, and we're humbled by that, get to a company where they're now, a $2 billion publicly traded company and the number one data provider in the world. And we still run campaigns for them to this day. So selling to salespeople is always a great way to invest into cold calling because, again, like you said, they pick up the phone, they like to talk, and if you can have a great offering, they'll be open to it most of the time. They're also salespeople, so they know all the tricks of the trade as well. So just keep that in mind, right? So you have to be good when doing this because they are probably better than you, or at least just as good. So they know the tricks. It's like selling, like you said before, trying to sell a car to a car salesman. It's challenging. Marketers, obviously, connecting with marketers, they're very responsive. Usually they're the, inbound point of contact, if you will, right? So you can reach out to them and they're responsible to respond back in many cases. HR, also very comfortable to pick up the phone, also quite responsive, also typically talkative people and outgoing people. That's why they're in HR. So those are, and finance also as well. But I would say the big three are marketing, sales, and HR.
No, that's awesome. And I know from a marketing perspective, when I see good marketing, I sometimes will just do it out of respect. So I could see, um, a sales leader being like, okay, let me see how this works, just so maybe I want to do it too.
Yeah, you have that like that head nod, like it's like when you're an opponent on a team and like you respect your opponent, right? Because they're good. Now they're your opponent and you don't want them to win, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I got this respect for you. It's the same thing on a call. Not saying you should be against the prospect, but sometimes they don't want to talk to you, and you really want to talk to them. So that bridge could be really happening just because of a respect level of the career and them doing their job and you doing their job.
Man, that's so powerful. You were talking earlier, and we kind of got into a little bit of this. I'm just curious if you thought of like what were the most important things to do to make that first call is warm. Like what is your winter wardrobe suggestion to warm things up?
Don't sound scripted. The best analogy I give salespeople is this. The F1 movie just came out with Brad Pitt, huge blockbuster this year. Before Brad Pitt was even actually picked to be on the movie and before he accepted, there was a script of words that were written down by other people, right? And so he read the script to take the part. He also auditioned and did a trial and did a role play and did an audition to get the part. Now, why is Brad Pitt making millions of dollars in this movie? Well, he took other people's words, an actual script, and turned it into an amazing performance. So that's what a salesperson needs to do. You can't sound scripted. You can't sound like you're just reading words. You have to make it a performance. And that's the beauty of sales, right? And so in my opinion, if you're coming across conversation and you don't sound casual, you don't sound human, you don't sound authentic, if you're not cracking jokes, not just to get people to laugh, not stupid jokes, right? Don't be annoying, but be conversational and be human about it and be thought provoking about it and not sounding scripted, but start off with a framework. That's how you want to get good.
Yeah, I mean, no one, there's something so artificial about that script, right? You just hear that and you're just like, oh, hate it on podcasts, hate it anywhere. You just hear someone start reading something. You're like, what am I doing? I'm like listening to an audiobook now. Like, this is weird.
Exactly. I think the audiobook is a great example. Like right now I have 0 words in front of me. I'm just talking from, how I feel and my experience. That's the best way to handle a cold call. And you're relatable this is my number one thing is be confident, right? I don't care if you're an SDR and you're calling a CEO of a company, you're both two humans and you have an offering that they probably need. So speak with authority. Sometimes, when people say, hey, I'm just not interested, my response is, hey, before I let you go, right? And it's like, before I let you go, I'm in control of this conversation. Now, I'm not a jerk or arrogant, but I'm not just trying to like apologize for calling somebody. A lot of people do that. Hey, I'm sorry to bother you. And would you be interested? And you're on the fence and no one is attracted to that. People are attracted to strength. People are attracted to confidence. People are attracted to a strong message. And if you have a good offering and you're relevant, it should move them into action.
Are there any traps? I mean, what is the whole point? Just to get an appointment? Is that the goal?
No, I would say absolutely not. See, timing is everything in business. And one of the unique deliverables that we provide to our clients is we're not actually looking for an appointment as our North Star. Now, is it a deliverable? Yes. Is it valuable? Yes. Is it incredibly important? 100%. But we also want to give them down the funnel or down the pipeline prospects as well. And we categorize them into hot leads and warm leads, and we define it. A hot lead is an appointment booked on the calendar, like we just discussed. But a warm lead is someone who may be super interested, completely the right fit, the right person, the right company. But the one thing that's not aligned is timing right now. Maybe they just got hired. Maybe they just implemented a new product. Maybe they just hired 20 people on their team. Maybe they're on vacation and they're not back for another 2 weeks. So we don't want to force a meeting down someone's throat because, if you're being hunted, right, you're going to run the other way, right? That's just how it works. If we're too aggressive or we're hunting people, then that's not going to be exciting either. So timing is everything in business, right? So if the timing is off, we still want to share that lead with our prospects. We still want to nurture that. And then we want to bubble them up and convert them into a meeting when the timing is right. Now, I'm not saying be passive about it, but be strategic about knowing whether or not it's a fit now or a fit later. And that's how we really classify leads in many ways.
And then, I guess that's when, their classic structures kick in of a little bit of nurturing, or do you call them back later?
What is the best words in marketing is nurturing, right? And sales development leaders and sales in themselves, sales professionals, closers, if you will, they're always nurturing too. So it's all about nurturing, right? I just say the fortune is in the follow-up. That's where the money is. And, it's either 3 buckets for me. It's either you're a yes now, you're not a fit, maybe you're retired, right? Maybe you don't work at the company anymore, right? Maybe I'm calling completely the wrong persona, or you're a callback, you're a follow-up. And I have teams right now where I have a rep, he hasn't asked for new data in 6 months. Right? He has not asked our data team for new data in 6 months. By the way, that's not usually normal. Salespeople want new data. They think it's great because they have so many callbacks that he has scheduled that all he's doing is just calling people back that he spoke with a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago. And he's just continually nurturing and he's popping out 2, 3, 4 meetings a day from those callbacks. And he does it in a very professional way. He's not annoying about it. He asks permission to call them back. And he's building the relationship, if you will, and he treats it like a sales pipeline, but it's just a meeting pipeline. So that's how we approach it.
Wow. He hasn't needed the Glengarry new leads yet because he's already got a bunch of callback. Where do you see this going in the future? Is this just going to be always the same? AI, all the things. And you mentioned, I think, the very beginning, like that common misconception. Can I just have AI be my spam AI guy that just calls, or maybe, emails, but maybe calls?
Yeah. Well, legally right now, AI is not in a position to be on the phone for cold business to business. There's a lot of regulations there where you have to announce whether you're not AI or not do it at all. Actually, I just read just this week that Google is now going to be putting in disclaimers in emails that this email is written by AI. So there's going to be even now disclaimers there in the email side of things where people are going to have to know whether or not it was a human that wrote this or AI that wrote this. And to me right now, AI is it's a great enablement tool. It gets our reps ready. It trains our reps, scores our reps, it prepares our reps. It gives them great researching, great messaging, great ability to write playbooks. But on the execution side, we haven't seen companies gravitate towards, uh, a full AI go-to-market strategy without humans involved.
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't seen a spam email from an AI that I liked yet. It's just, yeah, it's almost like that classic thing back in the day when we were talking about the idea of just, hey, you got marketing automation now. Cool. Now you can do all your terrible marketing at more scale.
It's funny you say this because I was just talking about this, and I'm old enough and you're old enough to know what Marketo is. And when Marketo came out, it was is almost identical scenario that's happening right now, and history repeats itself. Now, AI is more advanced than Marketo, but it's almost more of the same. To your point, we went from all of these salespeople prospecting one to one, and then marketing automation came out, and literally I saw droves of SDRs getting fired because they were going all in on Pardot and marketing automation and Marketo, and in about 12 months from that point, they all hired them all back. Now, what's interesting is every sales development rep in the world uses marketing automation to help assist them in their day. So it's not a question of a replacement. It's a question of another thing that's going to be helping you become successful. And similar things are happening right now. The dust is starting to settle, I believe, in the AI discussion of whether or not it's going to replace SDRs. But at the end of the day, right, like I said before, we're seeing it really now be an augmentation and a help, not and a support mechanism, not a replacement of. So yeah, that's how we feel about it too. It's funny you brought up that point because we feel the same way.
Yeah, it's funny. It just cycles around, new tech, and then, oh, we're totally getting rid of all this. Yeah, nope, didn't happen back then. Nope, didn't, not at all. Hey, my next question for you really is like, who are you? How do you know all these things? How are you the SDR whisperer? Can you take me back in time, little Gabe days? Did you know you were going to grow up and be like running companies and teaching people the way? What was it like?
It's interesting. I actually realized that I can make money for talking when I was 11 years old. I grew up in a blue collar town of Buffalo, New York. My grandfather worked in the steel mill. My uncle worked at the Ford plant. My cousin, was a cook at a restaurant. And, so I looked at these people in my family, and I had a lot of educators too. My mom was an English teacher, so I learned how to talk from my mom. I learned how to negotiate though from my cousin. And it was interesting. I was 11 years old. I was doing a fundraiser to save our local aquarium, and we were selling t-shirts, and I won the contest in our entire region out of like 12 schools. And I sold the most amount of t-shirts. I convinced my uncle to buy 11 of the same t-shirt. And this t-shirt was not a good t-shirt. Let me just be super clear about it. All right. It was like printed weird. It didn't make any sense. It was in a very ugly shirt, but he bought 11 of them at $20 a pop. And the way that I realized, I said, wow, talking equals money. I don't have to lift heavy things. I don't have to smell like fish at the end of the restaurant shift. I don't have to be in a 100-degree, factory. Like, this is incredible. And so that got me excited about business and, being entrepreneurial. And that's really where it started. But I was an SDR for many years. So this whole cold calling thing, I don't talk about it just because I own a company that does it. I started off actually as an SDR, and kind of like mailroom to CEO stories. That's me. I was making prospecting calls for many years. I learned it. I was fanatical about getting better. I started finding mentors. I started teaching people how to do it. A lot of people asked me how to do it. And then it kind of grew into that.
Wow. This is not, you're not telling people something you've never put the time in and effort into.
Inherit this company. My dad wasn't a cold caller, right? It's like, no, I grew up in the industry, and it took longer. Could have probably been a lot easier if my dad was a cold caller and if I, was given this business, but it was not that road for me.
Bit of a hypothetical question for you next, if you're ready for this. I know you're a professional.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire.
Nice.
So you come visit, next customer event, whatever, drive north. It's in the backyard covered in a tarp, right? So
Does it have a flux capacitor? That's what I want to know.
I can't discuss that, but it does have cup holders for beer, right? So we go in the backyard, we use this time machine, but you get a chance to go back in time and visit yourself, right? You get to go meet yourself a couple days after graduating. You got that economics, that finance degree. You get to go see that Gabe. What do you tell that guy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love this. I wish it could happen, but maybe one day it will. And if you do have it, I'd like to come up.
May or may not have one. Yeah.
The thing is that I wish I just was okay with failing more. Like I got like really, down on myself when people said no. And then when I realized I wanted to quit like many, many times. And by the way, I wasn't good day one. All right. Like I was bad. I was on a podcast called, Were You Ever Crap at Sales? That's the name of the show. And the answer I said to them, which he's asked me that question, I'm like, yes, I was crap at sales. And so everyone starts off at a level where it's beginner. And so the big thing for me is once I found a mentor that taught me how to think differently about not doing well, it was my triggering moment. And so I would say to him, Gabe, 21-year-old Gabe is, find a mentor, be fanatical about learning, read a lot of books, and just absorb as much information because there's going to be a growth curve, but you can truly accelerate that growth curve or faster or slow. And I would say you're going to have to go through it. Might as well learn from these people. And I would just introduce them to some people that I think would be really important to learn from sooner than later.
My thought on that is, do you think he would listen to you if you shared that advice?
Yeah, I think that's always hard, right? It's almost like, right now, like listening, to yourself or someone close to you. I think third party validation is so important. Or my wife would tell me like 10 times to do something. And then I come home and said, hey, guess what? My buddy Brian just told me to do this. It's like, I've been telling you that for 2 weeks. And so it's like this third party credibility. It's hard to, to listen sometimes to the people who you may not want to listen to, especially if it's a reversion of you. But I think, if I did, I think I would have the success faster.
Awesome. Well, let me know next time you're doing a customer event up here and what beer to put in the cup holders.
That sounds good.
How do people reach out, connect with you?
Well, I mean, going back to LinkedIn, right? That's my social media of choice. I don't do any other social media. I have a Facebook for friends and family that are out of town, but at the end of the day, LinkedIn is where I live. I post twice a day, literally. So that's 14 posts a week. It's a lot in our world, and thousands of pieces of content on my profile that I hope you enjoy. But you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, and I'm hyper responsive there and love to chat.
I love that. And you know what? Like, it's about time we figured this SDR thing out. So I can imagine a lot of people being, I gotta pick his brain. So definitely reach out, folks. And man, I gotta say, Gabe, like, thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like this was a masterclass, and I'd sort of tiptoed and experienced a little bit of maybe bad SDR and okay SDR. So it's great to kind of actually have that fixed in my mind. So now I feel like, okay, this is a strategy. We should employ it.
Yeah. I mean, right now there's huge companies. I mean, Oracle, Salesforce, they have literally thousands of SDRs, right? And so we have to really adopt the idea that outbound is not dead and that, marketing is a lot of different things, right? I think the word marketing has so many different variables to it: blogs, SEO, ads, social. There's so many pieces, and outbound marketing is what sales development reps do and needs to be treated with white gloves, in my opinion.
Absolutely needs to be treated with that. Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been fantastic. And for those listening, if you learned something, I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else who needs to hear this, who needs to get that cold calling fixed in their brain and actually deploy that. Hey, especially if you're in some of those industries that Gabe was mentioning, man, this is something to talk about. So yeah, good stuff. And with that, thanks again, Gabe. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much, man. Looking forward to coming up there and going on a time machine together.
Let's do it. Then we'll go back and check out the dinosaurs after that.
Looking forward to it.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.